Hashtag Financial Briefing, Monday, April 27, 2026 prepared by, Senior Market Strategy Desk Date, April 27, 2026 Market Close Summary Hashtag Winners Alphabet, GOOGL, plus 8.3%, the undisputed star of the session. Alphabet reported Q1 2026 earnings after Thursday's close that blew past consensus, EPS of $2.14 versus $1.87 expected, revenue of $96.2 billion versus $91.8 billion estimated. The engine? Google Cloud surged 34% YoY to $13.1 billion, accelerating from last quarter's 29% growth, as enterprise AI workload migration proved stickier and more lucrative than bears predicted. CEO Sundar Pichai highlighted on the call that Gemini Ultra enterprise subscriptions crossed 4 million seats. Ad revenue also quietly re-accelerated to 11% growth, defying that AI will kill search narrative. Danaher, DHR, plus 5.1%, the life sciences conglomerate posted a surprise return to organic growth, plus 3.2%, after 5 consecutive quarters of bioprocessing destocking headwinds. CEO Rainer Blair called it an inflection quarter. Margins expanded 140 bps. Biotech investors exhaled collectively. Hashtag losers Visa, V, minus 4.7%, a rare stumble for the payments giant. Cross-border volume growth decelerated to 8% from 12% last quarter, with CFO Chris Su flagging softening discretionary travel spend in Europe and Asia-Pacific. Guidance for full-year revenue growth was trimmed from 10 to 12% to 9 to 11%. For a stock priced at 30x forward earnings, that kind of trim draws blood. NXP Semiconductors, NXPI, minus 6.9%, automotive chip demand continued to normalize. Q2 guidance came in 7% below the street. Management pointed to EV inventory corrections in China and slower-than-expected ADAS adoption timelines in Europe. The stock dragged the entire auto semi-complex lower, with ON Semiconductor, ON, falling 3.8% in sympathy. The Alphabet result rippled across the entire megacap tech complex. Meta, rose 3.1% and Amazon AMZN, climbed 2.4% on the rising tide logic. If digital advertising and cloud are re-accelerating, the whole cohort benefits. The NASDAQ composite closed at 18,742, up 1.6%, while the S&P 500 gained 0.9% to 5,681. The Dow lagged, up only 0.3%, weighed by Visa and a flat-to-down industrials tape. Notably, breadth was mediocre. The equal-weight S&P 500, RSP, rose just 0.2%. This remains a market powered by its generals. The Russell 2000 slipped 0.4%, extending its YTD underperformance to nearly 700 bps versus the S&P 500. Fed, the FOMC meets this Wednesday, and CME FedWatch prices a 94% probability of a hold at the current 4.50 to 4.75% target range. Markets are now pricing just 125 bps cut for 2026, pushed out to September. Fed Chair Powell's post-meeting press conference will be parsed for any shift in tone following March's core PCE print of 2.7%, still stubbornly above the 2% target but down from 2.9% in January. Yields. The 10-year Treasury yield sits at 4.38%, up 6 bps on the session, reflecting both resilient growth data, Friday's durable goods orders beat, and supply anxiety ahead of $183 billion in coupon auctions this week. The 2S/10S curve has steepened to plus 42 bps, the widest since early 2022. This steepening is the bond market's way of saying, growth is okay, but long-term fiscal risk isn't going away. Inflation. Oil is the wild card. WTI crude pushed to $81.40 per BBL on renewed OPEC Plus discipline and Gulf shipping disruption concerns. Gasoline prices nationally averaged $3.62 per gallon, which isn't crisis level but provides an uncomfortable floor under headline CPI. 1. Microsoft, MSFT, reports Wednesday post-close. The thesis: Azure growth needs to print 30% plus to justify the $3.3 T market cap. Anything below 28% and this stock sees $20 plus downside fast. CapEx guidance will be scrutinized. Are they still spending $55 billion plus annually on AI infrastructure? 2. AMD also reporting Wednesday. The bull case rests on MI350 GPU shipments ramping into hyperscaler data centers. Consensus expects data center revenue of $3.6 billion. Whisper numbers are higher. Lisa Su needs to deliver. 3. Eli Lilly, LLY, Thursday's report is the most consequential single-stock event of the week. Mounjaro/Zepbound combined revenue estimates sit at $11.4 billion for Q1. Supply chain execution is the variable. Any hint of manufacturing constraint and the $890 stock revisits $800. 4. Chevron, CVX, Friday morning. With oil above $80, Chevron's FCF yield becomes compelling at 7.5%. Watch for updated Permian Basin production targets and the Hess acquisition integration timeline following FTC clearance. 5. SoFi Technologies, SoFi, under the radar report Monday after close, today. The fintech has quietly strung together 4 consecutive GAAP profitable quarters. Member growth above 10M and lending revenue stabilization could push this $11 stock toward $14. The balance sheet story has genuinely improved. The soap opera continues at Boeing, BA. Over the weekend, Reuters reported that newly installed CEO Kelly Ortberg is considering a secondary equity offering of up to $12 billion to shore up the balance sheet after the prolonged 737 MAX production ramp struggles and ongoing Spirit AeroSystems integration costs. The stock fell 3.2% to $162. Ortberg, who took over in August 2025 promising, back to basics, engineering culture, now faces the uncomfortable reality that fixing manufacturing quality while burning $3 billion plus in quarterly cash requires a bigger war chest. Credit Suisse, yes, the brand lives on under UBS, downgraded the stock to neutral, writing, "We admire the strategy but can't model the dilution." Boeing bondholders, meanwhile, breathed easier, the 2034 notes rallied a full point. Hashtag clapperboard video hook, 60-second open, Alphabet just posted a quarter so dominant it dragged the entire NASDAQ up with it, cloud is accelerating, ads are back, and the AI kills Google crowd is awfully quiet today. Meanwhile, Boeing CEO is about to pass the hat for $12 billion while Visa just told us the global consumer is starting to flinch. Buckle in, this is the biggest earnings week of the year, Microsoft and Eli Lilly.